Rebecca had never imagined that at 60 years old, she would stand in the middle of her own kitchen, knees aching, her hands trembling as she wiped mashed potatoes from the tiles, the shattered china lying like pieces of her dignity. The echoes of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses filtered in from the dining room, where 100 guests were gathered to celebrate her son, Daniel's 35th birthday. Yet none of them saw her as a mother, a woman who had raised her son alone after losing her husband years ago, or even as a human being. She was invisible, a servant in her own home, a shadow cast by her daughter-in-law, Luna's carefully cultivated charm. The insult of being called a useless old woman had landed with a cruel precision, and even as she knelt there, cleaning the mess she had not made, a quiet determination began to bloom inside her. Her mind flashed back to the early morning. She had risen at 5, her arthritic hands stiff from peeling potatoes and chopping vegetables, yet she worked tirelessly, setting out Daniel's favorite roasted turkey, side dishes, and homemade desserts with meticulous care. Every aroma of the kitchen carried memories of her son's childhood, the mashed potatoes he had loved, the gravy she had perfected for his plate, the sweet cinnamon rolls that had always made his eyes light up. Luna had appeared at noon, dressed in a pristine white suit, exuding elegance that cost more than Rebecca earned in months. She had cast a disdainful gaze over Rebecca's work and spoken in that condescending tone that had become so familiar. Rebecca had swallowed, nodded, and returned to her tasks. Daniel, absorbed in his career and rarely seeing these small exchanges, remained oblivious to the tension that simmered in his own kitchen. The guests began arriving at 2 o'clock. Rebecca moved silently between kitchen and dining room, balancing heavy trays, refilling drinks, ensuring that every detail matched Luna's imagined perfection. From the living room, she could hear the soft music of compliments. "Daniel is so lucky to have you," neighbors would say, or "not all wives would go to so much trouble." Luna accepted each comment with flawless, rehearsed modesty, while Rebecca sweated over the stove, unseen, unacknowledged. It was a ritual she had performed for 5 years since moving in with her son and his wife, a daily, silent endurance of humiliation. When the time came for dinner, Luna entered the kitchen with a calculated, icy smile. "Rebecca, I want you to serve dinner," she said, but there was a hardness in her voice, a cruelty wrapped in civility. "And please use the apron. We don't want the guests to think you are just another guest." Rebecca felt a flash of heat in her cheeks, the words cutting deeper than any physical blow. She served plate after plate, legs aching, arms trembling, the weight of years pressing down on her. The guests barely noticed her presence, some offering polite nods, others glancing away. The entire scene reinforcing the sense of invisibility that had become her life. Then, Luna's temper erupted. Rebecca, finally seated with a plate of her own, was confronted in front of everyone. "What do you think you're doing?" Luna demanded, her voice slicing through the room. "Get up. Go to the kitchen where you belong, you useless old woman." The words hit like a hammer, reverberating in the hearts of all who heard, turning polite attention into silent judgment. Rebecca's legs wobbled, her throat closed, and her heart pounded as she obeyed. As she carried her plate back, Luna deliberately stuck out her foot. The plate flew from her hands, crashing onto the tiles with a deafening sound that silenced the room. Mashed potatoes and turkey splattered, the scent of destruction mingling with her humiliation. Kneeling on the cold floor, she began to clean the mess, yet a quiet, resolute frost formed in her chest. The years of servitude, manipulation, and small cruelties had hardened into a strategic calm. That night, after the guests left and Luna retired to her room, Rebecca sat in her own space, eyes tracing the envelope she had been preparing for weeks. Inside lay $40,000 she had painstakingly saved from her Social Security checks, money intended as a gift to Luna for her upcoming anniversary. But the events of the party had shifted something deep inside Rebecca. The envelope would serve a new purpose, a tool in a plan crafted over months, fortified by patient observation and meticulous documentation. Her suspicions had begun months before. On a seemingly ordinary afternoon at the supermarket, Rebecca had glimpsed Luna leaving a hotel with a man who was unmistakably not her son. They hugged and kissed with a familiarity that immediately raised alarms. At first, disbelief fought with intuition. Could her eyes deceive her? Could she be imagining betrayal? But as she watched them, clarity overcame doubt. Marcus Holloway, Daniel's best friend and the man who dined weekly in their home, had become a co-conspirator in a clandestine affair. That night, Rebecca lay awake, turning over the possibilities, questioning how to protect Daniel while collecting proof that would be undeniable. The following weeks became a study in discreet observation and quiet strategy. Rebecca noted every excursion, every private rendezvous, capturing moments in photos and keeping meticulous mental logs. She discovered patterns: Luna's shopping trips and spa visits coinciding with Marcus's presence, messages exchanged in secrecy, laughter at Daniel's expense. It was an intricate web, years in the making, fueled by her son's trust and the predator's audacity. When Rebecca finally accessed Luna's phone while she was distracted, the evidence crystallized. Messages detailed 2 years of infidelity, financial manipulation, and cruel scheming. Marcus and Luna had systematically siphoned money from Daniel, small amounts at first, escalating to thousands, totaling over $250,000. They planned not only to betray his heart, but to profit from his trust and labor, with Luna intending to secure the house and assets after a carefully staged divorce. Rebecca's patience and strategic mind had anticipated every move. She hired Samuel Hayes, a seasoned private investigator, to verify identities, collect additional proof, and ensure the integrity of her evidence. Samuel uncovered Luna's hidden past. Carmen Valdez, a serial con artist with multiple aliases, previously convicted of marital fraud in Nevada, using the same patterns of deception to trap wealthy men. The layers of lies, threats, and financial exploitation formed a narrative so damning that it would leave no room for Luna to manipulate reality once confronted. In the quiet of her home, Rebecca organized the evidence, a mixture of photos, documents, and certified records. The envelopes, once simple gifts, now carried the weight of truth, justice, and revenge. She understood that timing was critical. Daniel was unaware of his wife's schemes. Marcus remained oblivious to Rebecca's knowledge. The perfect moment for revelation had to combine precision, strategy, and timing, ensuring that the predator's web would unravel spectacularly and irreversibly. The coming days involved careful preparation. Rebecca studied each document, cross-referenced details, and rehearsed the sequence of disclosure. She observed Luna's schedule, the weekly patterns that brought Marcus into the house under innocent pretexts, and Daniel's long hours at work, which left him blissfully unaware of the betrayals festering under his roof. As she planned, Rebecca also reflected on her own resilience, the years of service, sacrifice, and unacknowledged labor that had honed her instincts. Her calm, now laced with the resolve of someone who had endured betrayal and humiliation repeatedly, became the sharpest weapon she possessed. The stage was being set for the confrontation. Yet Rebecca moved with patience, savoring the anticipation. Each moment of observation, each photo captured, each message saved, was a thread in the tapestry that would eventually expose Luna's duplicity. The quiet, careful collection of evidence contrasted sharply with the chaos of the birthday party, where humiliation had ignited the spark of action within her. Every tripped plate, every command yelled from above, every guest's pitiful glance became fuel, reinforcing her determination to protect her son and reclaim her dignity. It was not revenge for its own sake. It was justice, carefully measured, meticulously executed. A reclamation of truth in a house that had long been dominated by deception and cruelty. Rebecca understood fully the stakes involved. Luna and Marcus were cunning and manipulative, but Rebecca had patience, preparation, and undeniable proof on her side. The coming confrontation would be as inevitable as it was dramatic, a reckoning that would finally unmask the predators and restore balance to a household shattered by lies. For now, though, she waited. Every day added to her clarity, every misstep by Luna, every casual smile or whispered lie, was another opportunity for evidence. Rebecca was no longer invisible, no longer silent. The years of endurance had forged a precise strategy, a plan that would unfold with devastating, irrefutable clarity. And when the time came, no amount of charm, manipulation, or deceit could withstand the weight of truth she held. The following days moved with a rhythm of quiet observation and careful preparation. Rebecca watched Luna's patterns like a hawk, noting every deviation, every whispered conversation, and every step Marcus took under the guise of friendship. Each detail was meticulously logged in her mind, cross-checked with the photos she had taken, the messages she had saved, and the documents Samuel Hayes had secured. The private investigator had proven invaluable, verifying Luna's aliases, tracking financial transfers, and providing certified evidence that would withstand any attempt at denial. Rebecca spent hours each evening reviewing the materials, her hands trembling not from age or fatigue, but from the weight of what she held the culmination of years of deception and the path to justice. She thought about Daniel constantly. He worked tirelessly, unaware that the life he believed secure was a carefully constructed illusion, maintained by the very people he trusted most. He remained devoted to Luna, seeing her as the perfect wife, the embodiment of grace and sophistication, never suspecting the duplicity beneath her polished exterior. Marcus, too, remained a fixture in their lives, the loyal best friend, the man Daniel had relied upon for years, the one who had entered their home countless times while plotting betrayal. Rebecca's heart ached not for herself, but for her son, whose trust and love had been exploited with such precision. Rebecca also reflected on her own role. For 5 long years, she had endured Luna's subtle cruelties, the whispered criticisms, the condescending smiles, the moments of public humiliation, all tolerated for the sake of her son's happiness. Yet each instance had strengthened her resolve. She had learned to watch, to record, and to wait, understanding that impulsive action could jeopardize the outcome. Patience had become her greatest ally, and strategy her shield. The envelope of $40,000 once meant as a gift had now transformed into a tool of revelation, paired with photographs and documents that would dismantle Luna and Marcus's carefully constructed world. One morning, Rebecca followed Luna discreetly, observing her interactions with Marcus at a local cafe. They met under the pretense of casual conversation, yet the intensity of their glances and the subtle touches betrayed the depth of their collusion. Rebecca captured every moment with her phone, ensuring she had visual proof of the ongoing affair. Each photo was carefully time-stamped, ready to serve as undeniable evidence. She noted their patterns, the times they met, the gestures exchanged, the coded language in their texts, and added these details to the growing file that now included financial records, messages, photographs, and official documents. Meanwhile, Samuel Hayes continued his investigations, digging deeper into Luna's past. Rebecca learned that her daughter-in-law had a history far darker than infidelity or financial manipulation. Carmen Valdez, the real identity behind Luna Miller, had been arrested in Nevada for marital fraud, with a record of exploiting multiple men under various aliases. Samuel had obtained police reports, marriage records, and financial documents that exposed a pattern of calculated deception, each piece verified and certified. The evidence painted a picture of a woman who had made a career of manipulation and theft, and who had now set her sights on Rebecca's family. As the days passed, Rebecca's planning became more precise. She identified the perfect moment for confrontation, the dinner to celebrate Daniel's promotion. A gathering of 12 people, including Marcus and Luna's friends from the club. The room would be intimate, the guests positioned for maximum impact when the truth was revealed. Rebecca prepared mentally, organizing the envelopes with evidence and rehearsing the sequence of disclosure in her mind. She knew that timing was everything. One misstep could allow Luna to deflect, manipulate, or destroy the credibility of the evidence. The day of the dinner arrived. Luna had orchestrated every detail with the precision of a general preparing for battle, reviewing the guest list, planning the menu, and ensuring the setting projected elegance and control. She had invited Marcus, select friends from her social circles, and Daniel's business associates, all unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. Rebecca moved quietly through the kitchen, preparing dishes with steady hands, her heart calm yet alert. Every tray placed, every plate served, was executed with the knowledge that the time for patience had ended, that the moment of revelation was imminent. As the guests arrived, Rebecca observed from the periphery. Luna greeted everyone with her signature charm, radiant in a blue dress, laughing in a way that projected effortless grace. Daniel arrived shortly after, visibly tired but smiling, grateful for his wife's efforts. Marcus entered last, the confident smile he had cultivated over years of betrayal firmly in place, embracing Daniel in a display of brotherly affection. Rebecca's chest tightened as she watched the performance, the veneer of happiness, trust, and perfection masking the treachery that lay beneath. The dinner proceeded with meticulous attention to detail. Each course served with grace, each toast delivered with rehearsed enthusiasm. Luna raised her glass in tribute to Daniel's success, her gaze sweeping the room as if to remind everyone of her role, her control. Rebecca's resolve hardened with each passing moment. She remained silent, observing, waiting, until the precise instant when the culmination of weeks of investigation and careful planning would be revealed. When dessert was served, Rebecca rose quietly, removing her apron, stepping into the room with measured composure. The suddenness of her action drew every eye. A hush fell over the guests as she approached Luna, envelope in hand. The transformation of the once submissive matriarch into the orchestrator of truth was complete. She extended the envelope, her voice calm but carrying the weight of inevitability. Luna's expression faltered, the confident mask slipping for the first time in years. Inside the envelope lay a photograph captured hours earlier, undeniable evidence of her affair with Marcus, and a series of documents including certified records of her prior marriages, bank transfers, and police reports detailing her history of fraud. The room was suspended in disbelief as Luna's carefully constructed world crumbled. Her hands trembled, her face drained of color. Daniel, initially confused, processed the documents and photos with mounting horror. Marcus's mask of loyalty faltered as he realized that their collusion had been exposed in full view of those they sought to manipulate. The evidence was irrefutable, organized meticulously by Rebecca, leaving no room for deception or denial. Luna collapsed, a heap of despair and panic, the fragility of her fabricated persona laid bare. Marcus retreated under Daniel's cold gaze, the realization of betrayal and exposure hitting him with equal force. Rebecca's patience, meticulous observation, and strategic preparation had culminated in this moment of reckoning. Every year of endurance, every act of silent servitude, every moment of careful documentation had led to the exposure of the predators who had sought to exploit her family. The dinner, once an instrument of Luna's social theater, had become the stage for justice. A dramatic reversal of power where truth held dominion over deceit. Daniel, stunned and disbelieving, turned to his mother, eyes filled with a complex mix of shock, gratitude, and sorrow. "How long have you known?" he asked, voice barely audible. 6 weeks, Rebecca admitted, recounting the careful accumulation of evidence, the strategic observation, and the consultation with Samuel Hayes. Daniel absorbed every word, every detail, understanding at last the breadth of deception that had infiltrated his life. He expressed sorrow for his own inaction, acknowledging the years of passive complicity that had allowed Luna and Marcus to manipulate and steal from him. In the following days, legal actions were initiated. Margaret Thompson, an experienced divorce attorney specializing in complex fraud cases, guided Daniel through annulment proceedings, civil recovery of stolen funds, and legal safeguards to prevent further harm. Marcus, recognizing his precarious position, testified against Luna in exchange for limited immunity, further solidifying the case. Luna, stripped of allies and resources, faced legal accountability, culminating in her arrest and the dissolution of her control over Daniel's life and finances. The aftermath brought profound relief and the slow rebuilding of trust and family bonds. Daniel, free from manipulation, began rediscovering his passions, reconnecting with friends, and reestablishing a sense of autonomy and judgment clouded for years. Rebecca reclaimed her space within the home, using her savings to invest in personal hobbies, self-care, and the creation of an environment marked by dignity and respect rather than fear and humiliation. The family's life, once dominated by deceit and quiet suffering, transitioned to authenticity, intimacy, and genuine care. Rebecca reflected on the journey on the years of patience, the careful accumulation of evidence, and the calculated timing of revelation. She understood that the strength required was not merely physical, but psychological and emotional. The quiet courage to endure, observe, and act with precision. Justice, when executed with foresight and clarity, became a tool for protection and empowerment, not vengeance for its own sake. The confrontation at the dinner was not just a personal triumph, it was a reclaiming of dignity, a restoration of familial trust, and a lesson in the power of patience, preparation, and unwavering commitment to truth. Rebecca had endured humiliation, betrayal, and the calculated cruelty of those who sought to exploit her family. Yet she emerged not only unbroken but empowered, demonstrating the profound impact of strategic action anchored in integrity and love. In the days following the dramatic revelation at the dinner, the house that had once felt heavy with tension slowly began to breathe again. Daniel took the lead in coordinating the legal proceedings, working closely with Margaret Thompson to ensure that every action taken by Luna Carmen Valdez was accounted for and addressed. The bank accounts were frozen, the evidence meticulously catalogued, and lawyers prepared for any possible attempt at manipulation. Marcus Holloway, realizing the gravity of his situation, cooperated fully, providing detailed records and testimony that sealed the case. For the first time in years, Daniel felt the control that had been slowly stripped away returning to him, not through anger or revenge, but through clarity and truth. Rebecca watched each step with a cautious optimism, knowing that the storm of exposure had only just passed its initial fury. The days were tense at first, each knock on the door or phone call carrying the weight of uncertainty. She found herself sleeping lightly, waking to check that nothing had changed, that no new threat had emerged. Yet within her grew a profound sense of relief, proof that patience and persistence could protect her family and herself. The envelope of $40,000, once destined for Luna, remained on her desk, a reminder of both the sacrifices she had made and the power she had reclaimed. Daniel's transformation was subtle but unmistakable. No longer burdened by the invisible chains Luna had imposed, he began to engage with life fully again. He revisited old hobbies, cooking, photography, and weekend bike rides, activities he had long neglected under the weight of manipulation. Even small interactions, like inviting friends over for coffee or spontaneous walks in the neighborhood, became acts of freedom and reclamation. For Rebecca, witnessing her son's resurgence was almost as satisfying as the exposure of Luna's deceit itself. Every smile returned, every laugh shared without hesitation, reinforced the validity of her decisions and the necessity of her quiet endurance. Meanwhile, Luna, or Carmen, struggled in the aftermath, removed from the protective bubble she had carefully constructed, confronted with the incontrovertible evidence of her misdeeds, and stripped of her allies. She became erratic. Her attempts to manipulate legal outcomes failed, her lawyer resigning in frustration over the weight of documentation and sworn testimonies she could not contest. Marcus's betrayal further dismantled her position without his support. She was left isolated, her schemes crumbling in real time. The initial shock of exposure gradually morphed into panic and desperation. Each action she took to regain control only reinforced the evidence against her. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal consultations, police involvement, and procedural formalities. Margaret Thompson navigated the complex terrain with precision, ensuring that all claims, financial or otherwise, were addressed methodically. Daniel, though still recovering from the emotional upheaval, remained composed and resolute, understanding that swift, deliberate action was the only way to protect both his family and their resources. Rebecca's role shifted subtly from observer to advisor. Her years of insight into human behavior providing clarity on Luna's likely responses. Together, mother and son formed a formidable team, united by truth and love rather than obligation or fear. Outside the confines of legal strategy, life began to reassert itself in more ordinary, human ways. Rebecca reclaimed her personal space, reorganizing her room, enrolling in painting classes at the community center, and rediscovering hobbies long neglected. The $40,000 she had saved, initially intended as a gift, became a symbol of autonomy, of the ability to invest in herself without compromise or expectation. For Daniel, the house itself became a canvas for renewal. The walls bore fresh paint, photographs of happier times, and furniture arranged for comfort rather than performance. Every renovation, every small adjustment, was a reclamation of their life, free from the shadow of deceit that had long dominated their home. As Daniel reestablished his sense of normalcy, he also began to consider his future with care and thoughtfulness. His work demanded attention, yet he approached it with renewed energy, balancing professional obligations with personal restoration. The lessons of manipulation, betrayal, and exposure had instilled in him a profound discernment. Relationships were no longer entered lightly. Trust was no longer given freely. Each new connection, whether personal or professional, was examined with care, ensuring alignment with integrity and genuine intention. The introduction of Sarah, a kind and grounded woman, marked another milestone in their recovery. Sarah's presence was unassuming yet impactful, demonstrating respect for both Rebecca and Daniel. Treating the household with warmth and sincerity rather than manipulation or expectation. Rebecca, cautious but hopeful, observed interactions carefully, noting Sarah's consistency, patience, and genuine affection. Over time, trust grew organically, unhurried and unforced, in stark contrast to the calculated charm that Luna had wielded for years. Daniel's engagement to Sarah symbolized a new chapter, one forged from the lessons of the past, but unshackled from its pain. He sought Rebecca's blessing, not as a formality, but as recognition of her integral role in shaping his understanding of trust, family, and vigilance. The wedding itself, intimate and heartfelt, reflected authenticity rather than spectacle. Rebecca walked beside Daniel, proud and acknowledged, her years of patience, observation, and intervention formally recognized. The ceremony celebrated love built on truth rather than deception, marking a profound reversal from the hollow performances that had once defined their home. Legal closure came gradually. Carmen faced legal accountability for her actions, including annulment of the fraudulent marriage, civil claims for stolen funds, and criminal investigations into her prior history of scams. Marcus, having cooperated, faced consequences that, while mitigated, were sufficient to prevent further manipulation. The resolution, though incomplete in monetary recovery, was thorough in moral and legal justice. The family could now breathe without fear, knowing that predators had been removed from their lives and the home reclaimed as a safe, nurturing space. Through this journey, Rebecca found that strength was not measured by the absence of vulnerability, but by the courage to act decisively, with patience and precision, in the service of protection and justice. She reflected on the years of humiliation, the quiet suffering, and the careful documentation that ultimately safeguarded her family. Each act of endurance and observation had been a deliberate preparation for the moment of revelation. and the results reaffirmed the power of strategic, principled action. The household, once tense and oppressive, thrived on authenticity and mutual respect. Daniel's renewed vigor, Sarah's supportive presence, and Rebecca's reclaimed autonomy created an environment marked by transparency and care. The daily rituals of life cooking, conversation, shared meals, and creative pursuits became expressions of resilience, trust, and connection. Each day's routines, simple yet profound, reinforced the lessons learned: vigilance, discernment, and unwavering adherence to truth could dismantle deception and restore dignity. Rebecca also recognized a broader insight. The experience illuminated the nature of relationships, highlighting that love and loyalty were not guaranteed by appearances or titles, but by consistent, observable actions and integrity. Manipulation, even when subtle, left scars not only on the immediate victims, but on the fabric of trust within a family. Conversely, intentional, measured, and principled intervention could restore trust, empower the vulnerable, and protect the integrity of familial bonds. In these months, Daniel also began to mentor younger colleagues and friends, sharing insights gleaned from his experiences. He emphasized discernment, patience, and ethical vigilance, seeking to instill awareness without fear. His transformation, nurtured by both personal reflection and maternal guidance, exemplified the reclaiming of agency and the value of experiential wisdom. Rebecca, observing the shifts in her home, recognized the importance of emotional intelligence coupled with strategic action. Her journey had required courage, meticulous planning, and the ability to anticipate manipulative behaviors. Each decision, from documenting encounters to consulting legal and investigative professionals, reinforced a central principle: knowledge and preparation are forms of power that safeguard both individuals and families. Through all of this, Rebecca and Daniel developed a renewed bond, one fortified by shared adversity and mutual respect. Conversations once dominated by duty or complaint transformed into dialogues marked by understanding, strategy, and support. The home, once a site of humiliation and passive suffering, became a sanctuary of empowerment, reflection, and genuine care. In this space, Daniel thrived as both a son and an individual, Rebecca as both protector and independent agent, and Sarah as a bridge of warmth, demonstrating that love can flourish when built on truth and mutual respect. The weeks turned into months, and the house settled into a rhythm that felt both strange and restorative after years of tension. Each day carried small victories: Daniel rediscovering his love for cooking, photography, and long walks with Rebecca, Sarah gradually becoming a trusted presence in the home, and Rebecca herself reclaiming the independence and joy that had been stifled for so long. The $40,000 she had saved, once a symbol of deferred generosity, became a personal gift to herself, funding hobbies, travel, and creative pursuits she had postponed for decades. Painting classes, weekend getaways, and new books filled her time, reminding her that life could still hold beauty, even after betrayal and hardship. Daniel, now fully aware of the manipulation he had endured, made conscious efforts to safeguard his family and his finances. He created clear boundaries, implemented joint oversight of accounts, and remained vigilant in all interactions. Trust, once given freely, was now measured and earned. Yet within this vigilance, he rediscovered joy, humor, and spontaneity, elements of life that Carmen had worked tirelessly to suppress. Family dinners, shared storytelling, and laughter returned to the home, filling the empty spaces that had once been dominated by deception. The legal outcomes provided closure, though not in the theatrical way of a sensational courtroom. Carmen faced her consequences, including criminal charges, restitution, and annulment of her fraudulent marriage. Marcus, having betrayed his partner, was held accountable for his complicity. The recovery of $80,000 in stolen funds, while not the entirety of the financial damage, symbolized a tangible restoration of justice. More importantly, the emotional and moral restitution truth, transparency, and protection from future manipulation was complete. The family could now move forward without fear or lingering doubt. Rebecca reflected on the years of quiet endurance, recognizing that her patience, strategic thinking, and careful observation had been the instruments of change. The humiliation she had suffered, the labor she had silently shouldered, and the vigilance she had maintained had all contributed to the eventual exposure of Carmen's lies. In her heart, she understood that courage was not loud or dramatic. It was deliberate, consistent, and measured. By waiting for the right moment and gathering indisputable evidence, she had ensured that justice was delivered without compromise. As Daniel prepared for his engagement to Sarah, the household embraced a sense of normalcy and hope. Their small gatherings became celebrations of genuine connection rather than performance. The lessons of the past were never forgotten. They served as guiding principles for every interaction, every decision, and every relationship. Rebecca observed with satisfaction as Daniel, now wiser and more discerning, approached life with both caution and enthusiasm, embodying the values of integrity and loyalty she had always sought to instill. Sarah's presence, steady and compassionate, reinforced the healing process. She respected Rebecca's role as matriarch, embraced Daniel's experiences without judgment, and demonstrated that authentic love is rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Through Sarah, Rebecca saw that relationships could be healthy, supportive, and grounded in truth, a stark contrast to the manipulation that had plagued her home for years. Their connection exemplified how trust, once betrayed, could be rebuilt with patience, honesty, and care. The house itself, a symbol of both endurance and renewal, reflected the changes within. Renovations removed the remnants of Carmen's influence. Walls were repainted, photographs of genuine family moments adorned the spaces, and every corner carried a sense of authenticity. The atmosphere, once tense and oppressive, now radiated warmth and security. Each act of daily life, from preparing meals to tending the garden, became an affirmation of resilience, a reminder that life, even after deception, could flourish when grounded in truth and intention. For Rebecca, the experience provided profound insight into human nature and the dynamics of trust. She recognized the skill with which Carmen had manipulated those around her, the subtlety of psychological control, and the devastating consequences of unchecked deceit. Yet she also saw the power of perseverance, careful observation, and principled action. In exposing Carmen, Rebecca had not only protected her son, but had also reclaimed her dignity, autonomy, and influence within her own home. The journey reinforced a critical truth: patience and preparation, when paired with courage, could overcome even the most insidious threats. As months turned into years, the family's bonds grew stronger, informed by lessons learned and hardship endured. Daniel and Sarah's engagement and eventual marriage exemplified love built on trust rather than convenience or manipulation. Rebecca continued to nurture her independence, cultivating hobbies, friendships, and experiences that enriched her life beyond the role of caregiver or observer. Together, the three of them created a household grounded in authenticity, mutual respect, and shared responsibility, a sanctuary from the duplicity that had once threatened to destroy them. The story of betrayal, exposure, and restoration became a quiet lesson not just within the household, but within the broader community. Friends and neighbors witnessed the resilience of a family that had endured manipulation and emerged with clarity, integrity, and renewed purpose. Rebecca's actions demonstrated that age, position, or circumstance do not preclude agency. Rather, thoughtful and deliberate action, informed by evidence and principle, can effect profound change. The experience fostered not only justice, but also empowerment, illustrating the enduring value of vigilance, courage, and moral fortitude. In reflecting on the journey, Rebecca realized that her greatest achievement was not the exposure of Carmen or the recovery of stolen funds, but the restoration of trust and the reclamation of agency. She had ensured that Daniel, now aware and discerning, would never again be subjected to such deceit. She had protected the integrity of their home and provided a blueprint for navigating betrayal with strategy, patience, and wisdom. More than that, she had reclaimed her own sense of self-worth and autonomy, demonstrating that even in the face of years of manipulation, one can assert control over their destiny. The house, now full of laughter, conversation, and shared purpose, stood as a testament to resilience and renewal. Daniel, supported by both Rebecca and Sarah, approached life with a clarity and confidence that had been long denied him. Rebecca, having navigated years of humiliation and betrayal, embraced a life enriched by autonomy, creativity, and meaningful connection. Sarah's presence provided warmth and steadiness, ensuring that love in the household was grounded in respect, authenticity, and mutual care. Together, they forged a family life rooted in trust and reinforced by the hard-won lessons of experience. Months later, when news arrived of Carmen's final arrest in Florida for another attempted scam, Rebecca felt a quiet sense of closure. Justice had been served, and the threats that had loomed over her family for years were neutralized. Marcus's imprisonment further ensured that the network of deception that had once infiltrated their lives could no longer pose a threat. In the aftermath, the family reflected on the profound lesson that deceit, no matter how cleverly disguised, can ultimately be uncovered by perseverance, observation, and principled action. Looking back, Rebecca recognized the full scope of what had been endured and overcome. The humiliation, the careful documentation of evidence, the strategic timing of exposure, all were necessary steps in safeguarding her family. Each decision reinforced a central truth that integrity, vigilance, and courage, even when exercised quietly, possess the power to transform seemingly hopeless circumstances into triumph. She had protected her son, reclaimed her agency, and restored the sanctity of their home. In doing so, she had also demonstrated that the bonds of family, strengthened by truth and action, could endure even the most calculated attempts at destruction. In the present, the household thrived. Sunday dinners were filled with laughter, shared stories, and genuine engagement. Daniel's children, Sarah's teenagers, and the extended circle of friends and neighbors contributed to a vibrant, nurturing environment. The lessons of manipulation, deceit, and exposure remained present as cautionary tales, but they no longer cast shadows over daily life. Instead, They informed a culture of discernment, transparency, and mutual respect, a legacy that Rebecca and Daniel were determined to uphold. Rebecca, reflecting on her journey, understood that true power resides not in wealth, status, or appearances, but in the ability to act decisively in service of truth and protection. She realized that enduring humiliation, observing carefully, and preparing patiently are forms of strength that may not be immediately visible but have profound consequences over time. By confronting deceit strategically, she had not only secured justice but also modeled resilience, prudence, and courage for the generations within her home. As the sun set over the backyard where Daniel and Rebecca often sat together, sipping coffee and enjoying the tranquility, a sense of peace enveloped them. The air was filled not with tension, fear, or manipulation, but with the warmth of restored family bonds, reclaimed dignity, and mutual respect. In that quiet moment, Rebecca understood the lasting truth of her journey, that love guided by vigilance and integrity is impervious to deceit, and that the courage to act decisively can restore not only justice, but the very fabric of family life. With the lessons of the past firmly imprinted, the family moved forward, unshackled from deception, empowered by truth, and enriched by the enduring bonds forged through adversity. Each day carried a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder that integrity, patience, and courage are the foundation upon which lasting happiness and security are built. The experience, though harrowing, had imparted wisdom, resilience, and an unshakable sense of agency that would guide them for years to come. Today, Rebecca sits in her home surrounded by love, creativity, and the simple joys of everyday life. The house that once echoed with manipulation and fear now resonates with laughter, conversation, and authenticity. Daniel thrives as a son, a professional, and a partner. Sarah supports and enriches the family with kindness and genuine care, and Rebecca herself embraces autonomy, creativity, and self-worth that had long been deferred. The story of betrayal, exposure, and renewal stands as a testament to the power of patience, preparation, and principled action. This story, though marked by deception and betrayal, ultimately affirms a universal truth that vigilance, courage, and integrity can dismantle manipulation, restore dignity, and reclaim both personal and familial freedom. It reminds us that even in the darkest moments, when humiliation and deceit seem insurmountable, the combination of careful observation, strategic action, and unwavering adherence to truth can transform despair into triumph. The moral of the story resonates beyond Rebecca's household resilience, is built not only through endurance, but through deliberate, thoughtful action. The quiet courage to observe, document, and act decisively, paired with the wisdom to recognize truth and protect those we love, forms the foundation of lasting justice and empowerment. Rebecca looks at her family, at the home restored, at the laughter and shared moments that fill the rooms, and she smiles quietly. The trials of the past are no longer chains, but lessons etched into the foundation of a life rebuilt. Love, integrity, and vigilance have restored what was nearly lost. And in this restoration, a profound sense of peace and fulfillment endures. Through patience, planning, and unwavering dedication, a family that once teetered on the edge of manipulation and betrayal now thrives, serving as a testament to the enduring power of truth, courage, and resilience. The journey underscores that adversity, when met with clarity and principle, can lead to profound renewal, restored trust, and the reclamation of dignity. The story ends not with finality, but with a lesson that the combination of vigilance, strategic action, and moral fortitude empowers individuals to protect themselves and their loved ones, overcome deceit, and reclaim both justice and joy. The legacy of courage, integrity, and unwavering commitment to truth reverberates through the household, the family, and beyond, offering a model of resilience and hope for all who face betrayal and adversity. Like, share, and subscribe if you found inspiration in this story. Comment below with your thoughts and the city you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story has traveled and hear how it resonates with you. Every story has the power to teach, to inspire, and to illuminate the paths of courage and integrity in our own lives.